Why the UK feels so expensive now. If you've recently glanced at your grocery bill, rent statement, or electricity invoice and muttered, "Why is the UK so expensive now?" you're far from alone. Across cities, towns, and even the countryside, the rising cost of living in the UK is leaving people stretched thinner than ever. But this isn't just about inflation or a temporary spike in prices. There's a deeper story behind why the UK feels so expensive now, one involving a tangled mix of economic shifts, political decisions, global disruption, and long-standing structural challenges. In this video, we break down the major forces driving the UK's financial squeeze. Wages aren't keeping up with inflation. Let's start with the gap that everyone feels in their wallet. The cost of living in the UK has surged, but wages haven't caught up. While inflation spiked to over 11% in 2022, the highest in 4 decades, pay packets rose by just a fraction in many sectors. According to the Office for National Statistics, ONS, real wages, after adjusting for inflation, fell by nearly 3% in early 2023. Public sector workers were hit hardest. Nurses, teachers, and council staff often received pay increases of less than 3% while prices soared. This wage-price gap means that even those in full-time work are feeling the crunch. Essentials like food, fuel, and housing eat up a larger portion of take-home pay. The result? Even with employment levels relatively stable, many feel worse off than they did 5 years ago. The UK housing crisis is getting worse. Housing in Britain is becoming increasingly unaffordable. Whether you're renting or buying, shelter is now one of the biggest costs facing UK households. And it's not just a London problem anymore. The average UK house price is currently around £286,000, with first-time buyers needing deposits of £30,000 or more. In London, the average monthly rent for a one-bedroom flat has surpassed £2,000. Even in regional cities like Leeds or Glasgow, monthly rents often exceed £1,000. What's behind the UK housing crisis? A shortage of affordable homes, years of underbuilding, rising mortgage rates, and strong demand all play a role. Mortgage rates climbed sharply in 2023, with typical fixed deals hovering around 5.5% to 6%, compared to just 2% a few years ago. This means many buyers are priced out, while renters face record-breaking increases. Housing is a core reason why the UK feels so expensive now, and unless supply improves, prices will remain sky-high. Energy prices in the UK have skyrocketed. Heating a British home in winter now feels like a luxury. Energy bills in the UK have doubled in just a few years, driven by global energy shortages and the country's dependence on imported fuel. In 2023, Ofgem's energy price cap hit a record high of £4,279 before government intervention. While support schemes like the Energy Price Guarantee cushion the blow, the long-term cost remains a burden for households. Contributing factors include the UK's ageing and poorly insulated housing stock, reduced domestic energy storage, increased global demand and supply bottlenecks. The situation exposed a vulnerability in the UK's energy strategy, a reliance on volatile international markets without sufficient renewable or nuclear backup. Even as prices moderate in 2025, they remain 60 to 80% higher than in 2019. Many households have cut back on heating or switched to prepayment meters just to cope. Food inflation has hit record highs. Go to any supermarket today and you'll see it. Milk that used to be £1 now costs £1.50. Eggs are up 40%, and basic staples like pasta or butter have doubled in price in some stores. In 2023, food inflation in the UK peaked at 19.1%, the highest rate in 45 years. Even as overall inflation cools, grocery bills remain stubbornly high. Why? Several reasons. Post-Brexit trade rules have increased the cost of importing food from the EU. Labour shortages in farming and food processing have disrupted supply chains. Global climate events and conflict have impacted crop yields and pushed up international prices. And because the UK imports nearly half of its food, currency fluctuations also hit hard. A weaker pound makes imported goods more expensive, contributing further to rising prices. Public transport is shockingly expensive. Getting around the UK isn't just a hassle, it's pricey. In fact, British rail fares are some of the most expensive in Europe. A return ticket from Manchester to London can easily top £100, while a monthly London travel card, zones 1 to 4, now costs over £200. Bus travel isn't much cheaper either. While the government has introduced temporary fare caps like the £2 bus fare scheme, these aren't always available or permanent, and don't extend to all regions. What makes it worse? Fuel duty and insurance add to car travel costs. Inconsistent service in rural areas limits cheaper options. Train strikes and service cuts make planning unpredictable. For workers and families relying on public transport, this isn't just inconvenient, it's a major financial drain. Brexit's long-term economic impact. While Brexit is no longer headline news, its economic aftershocks continue to ripple through the economy and make everyday life more expensive. Since leaving the European Union, UK businesses face higher import costs due to tariffs and customs delays, additional paperwork and regulatory checks, reduced access to EU workers, creating staff shortages. These problems have raised prices in logistics, hospitality, agriculture, and healthcare. The British Chambers of Commerce reported in 2023 that 77% of exporters were still grappling with post-Brexit red tape, increasing costs and slowing down trade. And unlike temporary price shocks, these are structural costs, baked into how the UK now does business with the world. Tax pressures are quietly climbing. The tax burden in Britain is now at a 70-year high, but many people don't notice it right away. That's because the government hasn't always raised rates. Instead, it's used fiscal drag. Fiscal drag happens when tax thresholds are frozen, so inflation pushes more people into higher tax bands. As a result, more workers pay the 40% higher tax rate. Basic rate taxpayers lose more of their income to deductions. Council tax, VAT, and fuel duties all add quiet pressure. In 2024, the Institute for Fiscal Studies estimated that the average household would pay £1,200 more in tax per year due to threshold freezes alone. And it doesn't stop there. Rising national insurance contributions, stealth taxes on pensions, and increasing local charges all chip away at disposable income, making daily life feel pricier even if wages technically rise. A weaker pound and poor productivity. Another reason why the UK feels so expensive now has to do with what the country produces and how efficiently it does so. The UK has long suffered from low productivity. Compared to France or Germany, British workers generate less output per hour, which translates into lower pay, higher costs for goods and services, less business investment. On top of that, the pound has weakened in recent years, particularly after major political events like Brexit and the 2022 mini-budget crisis. A weaker pound means imports cost more and international travel becomes pricier for British residents. Until productivity improves and confidence in the UK economy stabilises, prices will remain elevated, even if inflation itself cools. Interest rates are affecting everyone. In an attempt to tackle inflation, the Bank of England raised the base interest rate multiple times between 2022 and 2024, bringing it from 0.1% to over 5%. While this helped control inflation, it had a side effect. Everything that involves borrowing got more expensive. From mortgages and car loans to credit cards and small business funding, higher interest rates ripple through the economy. Even renters feel the pinch. Landlords pass their higher mortgage costs on to tenants. While higher interest rates are necessary to control inflation, they're also making everyday life tougher for many people. Everyday essentials come with hidden costs. Beyond the big categories like housing or energy, there's a quiet creep in prices across the board. From school uniforms and pet care to mobile phone plans and takeaway meals, everything just seems to cost more than it used to. Some reasons for this include shrinkflation, smaller product sizes at the same or higher price, service charges, tipping culture growing in cafes and delivery apps, subscription creep, monthly fees for music, streaming, cloud storage, and more. These micro-expenses may not seem like much individually, but they add up. Many UK residents now track their spending more closely than ever before, only to find they're still coming up short. The UK feels expensive now because it is. Rising housing, food, energy, and tax costs, combined with stagnant wages and weak productivity, are putting intense pressure on households. While global trends play a part, many of these challenges are uniquely British. Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell.